seconds, leaving a nice paper trail now. Looks real fine.
Looks good back, G. He's got it.
80 seconds and looks real good from here. 85. 90. 95. Flame color is bellowing out now.
We're standing by for you.
Roger, keep his go and I am go. Our capsule is in good shape. Fuel 103, 102, oxygen 78, 100. Cabin pressure holding steady at 58. Amps is 26. All systems are go.
Roger, 20 seconds to SECO.
SECO,
Roger.
sustainer engine cutoff.
Indicate
The moment when the final Atlas engine will shut down.
Say again.
When Friendship 7 should separate from the booster rocket and begin orbital flight.
SECO. Buzzer grade's fired. Okay.
Roger, stand.
Roger, 0J, and I feel fine. Capsule is turning around. Oh, that view is tremendous.
During translation.
Appears to be going okay. I'm now on the yaw part of the check. Coming off right on schedule. Very good, very good. So far is excellent. Very good. No problems at all so far on control. Roger.
This Friendship 7, you are fading rapidly.
Across Africa races Friendship 7 at 17,545 miles an hour. 300 miles a minute, 4 miles for every heartbeat of John Glenn. Only by the electronic instruments of the Coastal Sentry as she records the lightning passage of the man in space. For John Glenn, the familiar time references of Earth no longer apply, for he journeys around
Okay, Comtech, this is Friendship 7, reading you. Loud and clear, how many? Roger, Friendship 7, we share Capcom, how many, over? Roger, how you doing, Gordo? We're doing real fine up here. Everything is going very well, over. Very good, John. You sound good. Roger. That was sure a short day. Time passes rapidly, huh? Yes, sir. Right. Shortly, you may observe some lights down there. You want to take a check on them out to your right, over? Roger. I'm all set to see if I can't get them in sight. Roger. Any symptoms of vertigo or nausea at all, over? Negative. No symptoms whatsoever. I feel fine, over. Good show. Roger. I do have lights in sight on the ground, over. Roger, understand. You're just off to your right there? That's affirmative. Just to my right, I can see a big pattern of lights, apparently right on the coast. I can see the outline of a town and a very bright light just to the south of it. Roger, that's Perth and Rockingham you're seeing there. Roger, the lights show up very well, and thank everybody for turning them on, will you? Roger, sure will, John. UHF, do you receive, over? Roger, Friendship 7, loud and clear. Over. Roger, this is Friendship 7, loud and clear with you also. Are we still go from control center, over? Roger, we're still go. Roger, Friendship 7, all systems are go in the capsule. Friendship 7, Grimus, if you have a chance, could you give us a blood pressure check? Over. Roger, Friendship 7, we'll give blood pressure check. I still have some of these particles that I cannot identify coming around the capsule occasionally, over. Roger, how big are these particles? Over. Very small. I would indicate they're of the order of a 1/16 of an inch or smaller. They drift by the window, and I can see them against the dark sky. Just at sunrise, there were literally thousands of them. It looked like just a myriad of stars, over. Grimus, LOS.
LOS, loss of signal. Weymouth has lost contact, and Friendship 7 streaks home, an unseen comet darting across the land of its origin.
Canaveral, contact, how do you copy, over? Friendship 7 to Canaveral, read you loud and clear. How many Roger, Friendship 7, Canaveral, contact, reads loud and clear, stand by with Capcom, please.
Roger. Roger, still reading you. 7, this is Cape, go to Bermuda now.
Roger, this is Friendship 7.
Friendship 7, this is Bermuda, Capcom.
Roger, this is Friendship 7. I'm controlling fly-by-wire present time. I have no left jaw low thrust.
Minor trouble aboard Friendship 7. A malfunction in the automatic control system was causing the spacecraft to yaw in skid-like fashion, away from its proper flight attitude. But Glenn is overriding the faulty system and now manually controls Friendship 7 on fly-by-wire, directing its movements by hand control, much like a pilot flies a plane.
On fly-by-wire at present time. Understand?
Friendship 7, this is Kano, Capcom, standing by.
Hello, Kano.
Friendship 7, we have telemetry solid and check all your systems out okay. We will remind you to start pre-dark side checklist as soon as you lose contact with us.
Roger, Friendship 7.
Friendship 7, Friendship 7, this is Muget, contact. Friendship 7, this is Muget, contact. Do read, over.
In report, the first hint of potential disaster.
Okay, this is Friendship 7.
It came when astronaut Cooper relayed a request from Mercury Control, asking Glenn to check the status lights for the capsule's landing impact bag.
That is affirmative. Landing bag
Glenn
switch is in
reports
the center
status
off
normal.
position.
But ground stations are now receiving an ominous chilling signal, an indication that the heat shield on Friendship 7 seems to have come
They
loose.
want this answer.
Masked behind that routine report, the first hint of potential
Friendship
disaster.
7, Gilbert.
It came when astronaut Cooper relayed a request from Mercury Control, asking Glenn to check the status lights for the capsule's landing impact bag. Glenn reports status normal. But ground stations are now receiving an ominous chilling signal, an indication that the heat shield on Friendship 7 seems to have come loose.
California Capcom, would you like pleasure, huh?
Roger, receiving you much better now, Wally. You're very good.
John Harold, I'm real happy with you. You look real good up there.
All right, fine. I feel real good, Wally. No problems at all.
Good show. We're real pleased to let you go by this time. We'll see you next time around.
California contact, California contact, do you
We
read?
now have a
Over.
contact with our wireless Mexico station and with the Friendship 7, California Capcom. Would you like pleasure, John? Friendship 7 spacecraft is now committed to its third orbit. This is Mercury Control. John, the Aeromet's
In
real happy
Mercury
with you.
Control
You
at
look
Cape
real good up
Canaveral,
there.
a decision must be made,
Working out. I feel
and
real
soon.
good, Wally. No problems at all.
The signal pulsing down from Friendship 7 indicates still that the heat shield is
This
loose.
is Mercury
Could the
Control.
signal be
We
erroneous?
now have a contact with
There's no
our
way to tell.
wireless Mexico station.
But if it's
and
true,
with the
then
Corpus
John Glenn
Christi,
could
Texas
perish in a
tracking
searing
station.
inferno
The
when he
Friendship 7
plunges back
spacecraft is
into
now
the
committed to
atmosphere.
its third orbit.
The retro
This is
rockets
Mercury
that
Control.
slow the spacecraft and Mercury headed back Control toward at Cape Canaveral are strapped. A
over the
decision must
shield.
be made, and
If
soon.
they
were left on after retro fire,
the signal
instead
pulsing
of
down
being
from
jettisoned
Friendship
as
7
in normal
indicates
reentry, that
then
the heat
their
shield
straps
is loose. Might hold the
Could the
shield in
signal
place
be erroneous?
before they burn off. There is no way to tell. They might possibly save
But if
Glenn
it's
from
true,
the
then
3,000
John
degrees
Glenn
of
could perish
re-entry
in a
heat searing inferno
until he's
deep enough
when he
into the
plunges
atmosphere
back
into the
for its
atmosphere
force
to hold the
The
shield
retro
in place.
rockets that slow the spacecraft
But the
and headed
decision
back
must
toward
be
Earth
made soon. Are strapped
Even
over the
now,
shield.
Glenn is streaking toward the United
If
States.
they were left on
And he
after
must
retro
begin
fire,
the retro
instead
sequence
of being
300
300
miles
miles
normal
west of
re-entry,
California, then their
if he's
straps
to land in
might
the
hold the
planned
shield in
recovery
place
areas
before they
700
burn off.
miles south and east.
They might
of
possibly
Florida.
save Glenn
We'll
from
give
the
you the countdown,
3,000 degrees
for
of
retro
re-entry
sequence
heat
time, John. You're looking
until
good.
he's deep enough into the atmosphere for its force to hold the shield in place.
That's affirm. I'll give you a mark.
But the decision must be
45
made
mark.
soon.
California,
Even now, Glenn
California,
is
this
streaking
Cape
toward the
Flight.
United
Go ahead,
States.
Cape Flight.
And
We'd
he
like
must
to
begin the
leave
retro
the
sequence
package on
300 miles
at
west
least
of
through
California.
Texas.
If
So
he's to
tell
land in
him
the
to
planned
keep his
recovery area
retro
700
jettison
miles south and
switch
east
off.
of Florida.
John, leave your retro pack on through your pass over Texas. John, you're looking good.
Roger, we only have 50 seconds to retrograde, over.
That's affirm. I'll give you a mark. 45 mark.
California, California, this is Cape Flight. Go ahead, Cape Flight. We'd like to leave the package on at least through Texas.
Retros are
So
firing.
tell him to
Oh,
keep
Roger,
his
baby.
retro jettison
Are they ever?
switch off.
It feels like I'm going back
John,
to
leave your
Hawaii.
retro pack on through your pass over Texas. 20 seconds.
Roger. Roger, fire retro light is green.
All three here.
Roger.
5, 4, 3.
Roger. Retro says ground.
Fire.
Roger.
Keep your retro pack on until you pass Texas. Oh, Roger, baby.
That's affirmative. Are they ever? It feels like I'm going back toward Hawaii.
Don't do that. You want to go East Coast. They're good looking flight from what we've seen.
Yes, sir. Roger. My retro light is green.
Right. All three here.
Roger.
Texas Capcom Cape Flight.
Go ahead, Cape Flight. Go ahead.
We have decided to re-enter with the pack on.
Keep your retro pack on until you pass Texas.
We are recommending that you leave the retro package on through the entire re-entry. This means that you will have to override the switch.
Yes, sir. Looks good, Wally. We'll see you back east.
And 0443 Texas Capcom Cape Flight.
Go ahead, Cape Flight. Go ahead.
We have decided to re-enter with the pack on.
For this, have any reason over?
We are recommending that you leave the retro
Roger. Say it
on
again.
through the entire re-entry. This means that you will have to override the retro package switch, which is not to occur at 0443. You will have to override the 05. This also means that you will have to manually retract the scope at 0443.
This is Friendship 7. What is the reason for this? Have any reason over?
This also means that you will have to retract the scope manually.
Roger. Say it again. Roger. Understand. I will have to make a manual 05C entry when it occurs. And bring the scope in manually. Is that affirmed?
This means that you will have to override the 05C switch, which is expected to occur at 0443.
Go ahead, Chief.
4.5 minutes from now. This also means that you will have to retract the scope manually.
Roger. Retracting scope. Roger. Understand. I will have to make a manual
While you're doing
05C
that,
entry when
we're
it
not sure
occurs.
whether or not your
And bring
landing
the
bag is
scope in
deployed. We feel
manually. Is that
it's far
affirmed?
safer to re-enter with the retro package on. We see no difficulty at this time in that type of re-entry. Over.
Roger. Go ahead, Cape. Print 7.
Recommend you go to re-entry IN2 and retract the scope manually at this time.
Roger. Retracting scope manually.
While you're doing that,
Roger.
we're not sure whether or not your landing bag is deployed. We feel it's far safer to re-enter with the retro package on. We see no difficulty at this time in that type of re-entry. Over.
Roger. Understand.
Retro pack upon reaching 1 to 1.5 G. Do you understand? Over.
Roger. Friendship 7.
Amen. 7, this is Cape transmitting blind. Recommend
Suddenly, all contact with John Glenn and Friendship 7 is
Go ahead,
lost.
Cape. You're going out. This is Friendship 7. I think the pack just let go.
retro pack upon reaching 1 to 7.5 G. Do you understand? Over.
This is Friendship 7. A real fireball outside.
Amen. 7, this is Cape transmitting blind.
Suddenly, all contact with John Glenn and Friendship 7 is lost.
Okay, Friendship 7, over.
7, this is Cape. Do you read?
Friendship 7, I think the
The
pack just let
furnace-like
go.
heat of re-entry has created a barrier of ionization around Friendship 7, halting all voice communication.
Friendship 7, a real fireball outside.
7, this is Cape transmitting blind.
Okay, Friendship 7, over.
Alone, he plunges back toward Earth, a fiery meteorite. The furnace-like heat of re-entry has created a barrier of ionization around Friendship 7, halting all voice communication.
Okay, Friendship 7, over.
Friendship 7, this is Cape. Do you read? Over.
Okay, Friendship 7, do you receive, over?
The thickening atmosphere breaks his descent, slowing Friendship 7 from 17,500 miles an hour toward Earth to 1,300 miles an hour in slightly over 3 minutes. And the forces of gravity slam against John Glenn until he weighs 8 times his normal weight.
Friendship 7, this is Cape. Do you read? Over.
Okay, Friendship 7, do you receive, over?
The thickening atmosphere breaks his descent, slowing Friendship 7 from 17,500 miles an hour to 1,300 miles an hour in slightly over 3 minutes. And the forces of gravity slam against John Glenn until he weighs 8 times his normal weight.
1 mile of the uprange destroyer. Voice call is Steelhead.
Steelhead is the code name for the destroyer Noah, waiting to recover Friendship 7. But John Glenn cannot hear the message.
Around 443 flight.
Okay, Friendship 7, do you receive? Over.
Keep talking now.
Friendship 7, this is Keith. Over. Friendship 7, this is Keith. Being blind, your IP is within 1 mile of the uprange destroyer.
My condition is good, but that was a real fireball, boy.
Steelhead is the code name for the destroyer Noah, waiting to recover Friendship 7. But John Glenn cannot hear the message.
Around 443 flight.
Roger, altimeter off the tank indicating 80,000.
Keep talking now.
Roger, Friendship 7, this is Keith. Over.
Rocking quite a bit. I may still have the last tank on. I can't stamp it either.
Roger, reading you loud and clear. How you doing?
My condition is good, but that was a real fireball, boy.
The code center said.
I had great chunks of that retro pack breaking off all the way through.
Very good. It did break off. Is that correct?
Roger, altimeter off the tank indicating 80,000. Going to drogue early. It's a
Roger, reading you loud and clear.
Drogue came rocking quite a bit. I may still have some of that tank on. I can't stamp it either. Drogue came out at 30,000 in about a 90-degree yaw.
Roger, is the drogue holding on?
Roger, drogue looks good.
The code center said. Roger.
The scope did not come out.
Is that clear?
Roger, pumping the scope out.
That's over.
Say again. Friendship 7 going to drogue early. It's a rocky first. Roger, re-entry came out. Complete. Standing by for me. Drogue is out. Roger, drogue came out at 30,000 in about a 90-degree yaw.
Roger, is the drogue holding on?
Roger, drogue looks good.
Roger.
Scope did not come out.
Is that clear?
Roger, pumping the scope out. 10 snorkels are open. Say again. Roger. Roger, re-entry checklist complete. Standing by for me. Out in reach condition at 10,800 feet and beautiful chute. Chute looks good. On O2 emergency and the chute looks very good. Rate of descent has gone to about 4.2 feet per second. Open. The chute looks very good. Roger. Hello, Mercury recovery. This is Friendship 7 in reach condition at 10,800 feet and beautiful chute. Chute looks good. Roger, Steelhead. Friendship 7, the chute looks very good. Over. Chute looks very good. Rate of descent has gone to about 4.2 feet per second. The chute looks very good.
Home is the voyage.
Hello, Mercury recovery. This is Friendship 7. Do you receive?
A journey of 81,000 miles. Through 3 days and 3 nights.
Roger,
In just 4 hours
Friendship 7,
and
the chute
56
looks very
minutes.
good. Over.
At 3:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friendship 7 comes to rest aboard the United States destroyer Noah. And John Glenn, home, return is the people of Earth. Behind, a change of clothes, a journey of 81,000 miles. A short through 3 days and 3 nights. Then, Glenn leaves 4 hours, heading for the aircraft carrier Randolph. Under the golden splendor at 3:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time of the day, Friendship 7 comes to rest aboard the United States destroyer Noah. And John Glenn returns to the people of Earth. A change of clothes, a breath of cool air, a short debriefing. Then, Glenn leaves the Noah, heading for the aircraft carrier Randolph, under the golden splendor of his 4th sunset of the day. 2 teenage children. Today, John Glenn and the Mercury team challenged space, and they won. His name, John Herschel Glenn, Jr., Lieutenant Colonel, United States Marine Corps. Married, father of 2 teenage children. Today, John Glenn and the Mercury team challenged space, and they won. Today, John Glenn dares space. Other brave men will follow tomorrow, and in the tomorrows after that. Each step more bold as we reach out to explore the universe around us. Today, John Glenn dares space. Other brave men will follow tomorrow, and in the tomorrows after that. Each step more bold as we reach out to explore the universe
is down here. Okay. So I get back and do some more things. And I had another rest period. So this time I took 1 foot out, did a little agility. Oh, there it is.
In the space outside and to look out in any direction was pretty neat.
Hey,
It's humans out there. It's humans out here. It's humans on the frontier.
Okay.
When I opened the
So I
hatch,
get back and do some more things. And
I
I
mean, I
had
had the
another
whole
rest period.
universe in front of me. It was,
So this
it
time
was
I took 1
spectacular.
foot out.
Then you sort of poke your head out,
A
flip
little
around, and you take a look
agility.
around, and you know it's really a holy moly kind of moment.
That was when
Oh,
I
there
first
it is,
learned, I
okay.
think what it,
To be
the
in the
definition of what it
spacesuit
truly is to
outside
be
and to
alone.
look
Being
out
in space,
any
being in
direction
Earth orbit,
was pretty
floating
neat.
is
It's
truly
humans
a
out there.
magical
It's humans out
experience.
here.
It means
It's
an
humans on
exciting
the
day.
frontier.
It
When I
means
opened the
it's a
hatch,
day that it's going to be a lot of
I
work,
mean, I had the whole universe
but very
in front of me.
rewarding
It
work.
was
NASA's
spectacular.
astronauts
Then you sort of poke
international
your head out,
partners
flip
suit up
around,
for
and
modern
you take a look
spacewalks with
around, and
training
you
and
know it's
experience.
really a
Humans suited up,
holy moly
leaving the
kind of
vehicle
moment.
and going
That
out
was
on
when I first
spacewalks.
learned, I think what
Exploring,
the
you know, going
definition of what
beyond
it
and
truly is
always
to be
going
alone.
into a
Being in
situation we've
space,
never
being
been
in
to
Earth
before,
orbit,
to fix
floating,
something, space station,
is
to
truly a
deploy,
magical
experiment, or
experience.
longer term.
It means an
I
exciting
think of
day.
spacewalking
It
on
means
Mars.
it's a day
Spent a
that
lot of
there's going
time
to be a
thinking
lot
about
of
how
work,
humans are going to
but
explore
very
Mars.
rewarding work.
Suited
NASA's
with some
astronauts
pretty
and
new cool
international
technology.
partners suit up for modern spacewalks, floating out in the void of space. They are
Humans
standing
suited
on
up,
the shoulders
leaving the
of
vehicle
giants,
and going out on
making new
spacewalks.
discoveries, by
Exploring,
building
you know, going
a
beyond and
prestigious
always
legacy.
going into a situation we've never been to before, to fix something, say, a space station, to deploy,
Why
an
did the
experiment, or
Russians
longer term,
expect
I think of spacewalking on
Why did
Mars.
they
So spent a lot of time thinking about how humans are going to explore Mars, suited with some pretty new, cool
We're
technology.
shooken up by Sputnik, and we
When
marshaled
floating
our
out in the void of space, they are standing on the
resources,
shoulders
put
of
together
giants, making new
winning
discoveries
program.
by building
One of the
a
things that
prestigious
drove us
legacy.
into human space flight was fear. Was the fear when Sputnik went overhead in
Why
1957
did the
and people
Russians
began to realize that there was
Sputnik
another nation in the world
Why
that
did
had
the
the
US
capability of putting something into space that could actually pass over the United States. That's not a good way to do a sustainable program,
were
is
shooken
through
up
fear.
by Sputnik,
Clearly, our
and we
motivation was a race.
marshaled our
It was to beat the Soviets. And we had to do
resources,
that for international prestige. And so that set us on a sprint to the moon.
One of the
We
things
will
that
get to the
drove
moon
us
within
into
the
human
decade,
space
and we
flight was
did.
fear. Was the
But
fear
it didn't set us
when
up for a
Sputnik went overhead
long-term
in
exploration program in
1957 and
space.
people
Way
began to
back when we
realize that
called
there
the
was
terrible
another nation in the
60s,
world that had the capability of putting something
like
into space that could actually
country
pass
was
over the United States.
awash
That's not a
in-
good way to do a sustainable program, is through
campus
fear.
arrest, civil
Clearly, our
strife,
motivation was a race.
beginning
It was
of a
to
very
beat the
unpopular
Soviets.
war.
And we had to do that for international prestige.
The
And
Soviets
so that set us on
literally
a
owned
sprint to the moon.
space at that
We will
point
get
in
to the moon
time.
within
Yuri
the decade, and
Gagarin
we did.
back in
But
in
it didn't
early
set us up for a long-term
1961,
exploration program
made
in
one
space.
orbit around
Way
the
back
Earth.
when we
Alan
called the
Shepard
terrible
60s became the hero that this country was
America's initial and
awash
successfully
in-
crewed space missions, known as Project
in
Mercury,
campus
were
arrest,
followed by
civil
Project
strife,
Gemini, the proving
beginning
ground
of
that
a
would
very
lead to the
unpopular
Apollo
war.
missions and the landing on the moon. On the Soviet
Soviets
side,
literally owned
cosmonauts and
space
engineers
at
were
that
doing
point in
similar
time.
work to
Yuri
extend
Gagarin
spaceflight
back
duration,
in
improve
the early
rendezvous techniques, and to develop the
1961,
capability to lead the
made
spacecraft.
one orbit around the
and what was
Earth.
dubbed
Alan
by
Shepard
NASA as an extravehicular
became
activity,
the
or
hero
EVA.
that this country needed.
America's initial and successfully crewed space missions,
In
known
order
as
for us
Project
to conquer
Mercury, were followed by
the
Project Gemini,
space,
the proving
we
ground
need to
that would
learn
lead
how
to the
to
Apollo
operate
missions
outside
and the
of the
landing on the
space.
moon. On the Soviet side, the first successful egress and engineers were doing similar work to extend spaceflight Alexei Leonov, improve rendezvous on March 18th, and to develop the capability to leave the spacecraft, making him the first person what was dubbed by NASA as an extravehicular activity, or EVA.
And what I saw, and I saw just half of the world. In order for us to conquer the 500 kilometers, we need to learn how to operate outside of the space. And nobody,
The
even
first
up
successful
until
egress
now,
from the
nobody's
spacecraft
flying
while in
that
orbit was
high.
achieved by cosmonaut Alexei Leonov on March 18, 1965,
task was
making
to get
him the
out and
first
get back
person to
in.
complete an EVA, or a spacewalk.
And he had basically,
And what I saw,
as best I understand,
and I saw just half of the world, because we were 500
after he
kilometers
got out of an airlock,
above
and he
the
was
Earth.
literally out there in a vacuum of space.
Nobody,
And,
even up until now,
and once
nobody's
he
flying
got
that
through
high.
that tunnel, his job was to turn around and
get back in. Task and had a great deal of difficulty getting back in because he had to turn around in that tunnel. He had basically a pressurized space at that time, even for us, tunnel was like after he got out of an airlock, and he was literally out there in vacuum space. Hard to move anything. And he literally had to deflate. And once he got through that tunnel, at that point, his job was to be able to turn around and get back in, to reduce his size, and had a great deal of difficulty getting
Later
back
that
in
year,
because he
Gemini
had to
4
turn
stood ready to
around
launch
in
from
that
Cape
tunnel
Canaveral,
with
Florida, with the primary objective of
pressurized
gathering the
space
results of an extended
at that
4-day
time,
mission
even
on
for
both
us,
crew and spacecraft.
was like
Gemini 4's original
being inhibited
semi-conservative
by
mission
a
was then
pseudoplaster
expanded
of
to
Paris. I mean,
include,
it's hard to
amongst
move
other
anything.
things, a
And he
dramatic
literally
exit
had
from
to
the Gemini
deflate
spacecraft in what would be America's
at that
first
point in time to
spacewalk.
be able to
On
reduce
June
his
3rd,
size to get back in.
1965, the second that year, mission Gemini 4 stood ready to launch from Cape Canaveral, Florida, with the primary objective of gathering the results
At
of an extended
2:46 p.m.
Eastern Time, both crew using a handheld gas gun. Gemini 4 stepped out of his semi-conservative mission, leaving crewmate was then expanded to include, amongst other things, vastness of a dramatic exit from the Gemini spacecraft, becoming the first American what would be America's first spacewalk. On June 3rd, 1965, the second crewed mission of the Gemini series carried James McDivitt and Edward Hall into space.
This is the greatest experience.
At 2:46 p.m. Eastern Time,
We had Ed
using
White's
a handheld gas
magnificent
gun, White
20-minute
stepped out of his
quote
spacecraft,
walk in space.
leaving crewmate
I don't think
McDivitt
he'll ever get
behind
any better,
to witness the vastness of space,
any
alone,
better
becoming the first
film.
American astronaut to complete the space.
It was space euphoria, I think, from everyone from Ed and Jim McDivitt to everyone on the ground and mission control everybody. I mean, it was spectacular. He had a little gun, he could control his body, he could move where he wanted to go. We had Ed White's magnificent 20-minute
the Gemini
quote
program
walk in
continued
space.
to refine
I don't
and
think he'll ever get
extend
any
the
better,
procedures as more astronauts
any
followed
better
with tethered spacewalks in Earth's
film.
orbit.
It was space euphoria, I think, from everyone from Ed and Jim McDivitt to everyone on the ground and mission control everybody. I mean, it was spectacular. He had a little gun, he could control his body, he could move where he wanted to go. It set us up.
Well, you haven't practiced in the free fall zero
the Gemini
condition.
program continued to
And so
refine
it's
and
Newton's
extend
second law.
the
You push in
procedures as
something, you
more
move your
astronauts
body instead
followed
of
with
getting the
tethered
work done.
spacewalks in Earth's orbit.
And so that whole business, you see, well,
We
you
just
know
evolved
the
and we
difficulties
grew
that we
since-
had in the
since we
Gemini
opened
program
and
doing
Gemini
spacewalks because
Americans
the state
like
of the
Gene
art,
Cernan,
the state
Michael
of the
Collins,
art needs to
Richard
improve.
Gordon,
But
and Buzz
you
Aldrin
saw the
continued
difficulties
the
there when
competition
you
with
jump
the
out and you try to
Soviets.
get something done.
In the Gemini
well, you
days,
haven't practiced
when they
in
were
the
trying
free
to do
fall
the
zero
first
G
spacewalks
condition.
from a
And
capsule,
so it's Newton's second law. You
the
push
first
in something,
EVAs,
it
the
moves
first
your body
spacewalks
instead
were
of getting
not
the work
very
done.
productive.
And so that
the crew
whole
members
business,
got
you
outside,
see,
they didn't have
we
anything
just
to hold on
evolved and we
to,
grew.
they kind of flailed around.
Since Leonov and
They
Gemini
couldn't do
are.
fairly simple
Americans
tasks.
like Gene Cernan,
And
Michael
they
Collins,
learned from that they
Richard
had
Gordon,
to have a better way
and
to
Buzz
train.
Aldrin continued
And they
the
started to use
competition
water
with the
tanks at that
Soviets.
time.
Every
In the Gemini days,
progressive
when they were trying to do the first
EVA
spacewalks
had,
from a capsule.
different little hang-ups.
The first EVAs, the first spacewalks
Frustration,
were not very
overpowering,
productive. The
getting
crew members got
overheated.
outside, they didn't have anything
Next
to hold
came
on
the
to,
Apollo
they kind of
program,
flailed around.
with one of its lofty goals
they couldn't
to
do
land
fairly simple
Americans on the
tasks.
surface of the moon,
And
then
they
return them
learned from
safely
that
to
that
Earth.
they had to have a better way to
We're going
train.
to the moon.
And they started to use
I
water
mean,
tanks at that time.
Hey, we're going to the
Every
moon.
The Gemini suit, you could
progressive
pretty much compare it to
EVA
what
had,
the launch entry suit
different
was
little
like. You know, it
hang-ups.
was
frustration,
not custom made,
overpowering,
but you
getting
could, you know, the
overheated.
link net stuff could be
Next came the Apollo program,
configured
with
so
one
that
of
you
its
did have
lofty
a certain
goals
mobility
to
in
land
the arms
Americans on the
and-
surface of
and
the moon,
knees.
and then return them safely to
The
Earth.
difference being the Apollo suits
We're
were all
going to the
custom
moon.
made for each crew member.
I mean, hey, we're going to the moon.
The Gemini suit, you could pretty much compare it to what the launch entry suit was like. You know, it was,
liftoff. 32
not
minutes
custom
past the hour. Liftoff on
but
Apollo
you could,
11.
you know, the link net stuff
The
could
first
be
steps on the lunar surface were
configured
performed by Neil
so that you did
Armstrong
have a certain
and Buzz
mobility
Aldrin.
in the arms.
It was
and
July
at the
21st,
knees.
1969.
The
and
difference
the world
being the Apollo
irrevocably
suits
changed
were all
with the steps of
custom made
man,
for each crew member.
very far away from the Earth.
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
I do
32
remember the
minutes
first
past
landing
the
on
hour.
Apollo 11.
Liftoff on
I
Apollo
remember,
11.
I
guess in high
The
school,
first steps on
staying
the
up and
lunar
watching
surface
that,
were performed
going
by
out
Neil
and looking
Armstrong
at the moon and just
and Buzz
marveling
Aldrin.
about their people.
It was July 21st.
I think we were all
1969.
captivated when Neil
And the
Armstrong
world
did the ultimate
irrevocably
spacewalk,
changed
which
with
was
the steps
to
of
actually
men
go out
very
of his
far
vehicle
away
and end
from
up
the Earth.
walking on the surface of another body in our solar system.
You have a mass with the backpack in.
I do remember the first landing on the
body
moon,
and
Apollo
everything
11.
else.
I remember
And
in
you
high school,
move
staying
around
up and watching
you
that,
kind of think
and going
that
out and looking at the
you can
moon and
change
just marveling
direction.
about their people up there.
But that,
I think we
that's
were all
sort of
captivated
why
when
at
Neil
the end
Armstrong
of,
did the ultimate
our
spacewalk,
2-hour,
which was
2.5
to
hour
actually
EVA,
go out of his
I
vehicle
got in
and
front
end
of
up
the
walking
camera
on the surface of
bouncing
another
around,
body in our solar
with
system.
different ways. You have a mass.
I was really
with the backpack
personally
and
impressed with the Apollo
the,
EVAs and
the
space
body
box.
and
Can you
everything
imagine
else.
the first humans
and
to ever
you
walk
move
another
around
planetary
and
body
you
to the
kind of
moon?
think
So
that
just fantastic.
you
And
can
you kind of
change
see that
direction.
2-foot bunny hop. So
that's
we had
sort of
great
why
spacesuits. We
at
kept
the
the
end
Apollo
of,
astronauts alive.
Once we got the lunar rover set up, we were ready to go be lunar explorers, if you will.
Different ways
and part of the lunar rover.
I was really personally impressed with the Apollo
plastic
EVAs and
fenders
space box. Can you imagine
that when it
the
was
first
folded
humans
up, we had
to
to
ever walk
unfold and they
another
slid
planetary
down the
body
cover,
to the
wheel.
moon? So just
But the
fantastic.
reason we
And
had
you kind of
fenders
see
on
that
these
2-foot
things were because
bunny
the
hop.
lunar dust
So we had great
was one
spacesuits.
of the
We kept
biggest
the Apollo
problems we
astronauts alive.
encountered. Once we got the lunar rover set up, it was almost the texture. We were ready to go. But graphite lunar explorers. This was just the opposite. It would get in and on everything. So I was walking, doing some work around the lunar rover, and that when it was folded up, we had to unfold and they slid down the cover, the wheel. But the reason we had extensions of the fender were because the lunar dust was one of the biggest problems we encountered and immersed us in all this stuff. It was almost had to figure out a way. But graphite maps, lunar geology maps, and taped them together. And took a couple light clamps and everything. So I was walking, doing some work around the lunar rover, and what did we tape rock hammer in my pocket with the handle sticking
We went
out.
from there into the Skylab program, and we went to the A7LB at that time. So Apollo, you know, so we're on the surface with A7L, our spacesuit, and we do have a 6 of a gravity, and we do have the life support system on the back, which is taking care of all our physiology, the cooling, the oxygen, removing the carbon dioxide, and all the rest of that.
And what do we tape
In the
with?
Skylab program, we were on an umbilical. We went from there into the Skylab program, and we went to the A7LB physiology, if you will. So the umbilical, you know, between the spacewalker and the A7L space station, our spacesuit, and we do the life 6 of a gravity. When we went, we do have the life support system on the back, which is taking care of all our physiology. But the big difference between the oxygen and the carbon dioxide was all the rest of that. In the Skylab program, we integrated the backpack, the umbilical itself provided. So Apollo was you wear the backpack there and you bring the hoses around the umbilical between the spacewalker and the Skylab space station provided the hard upper torso and the life support system. When we went into the shuttle program, importantly to us, then riding a back away with the zipper. But the big difference that is zipper work and Apollo, and I had was taken that zipper to a vacuum many times. We integrated the backpack with the suit and it rolls around, and so Apollo was you wear the backpack there and you bring and the zipper is maybe 3 feet in the shuttle program, and it is integrated. The hard upper torso and the zipper is the only thing between you and importantly to us.
SpaceLink has actually saved some of our programs. So we can look at Skylab.
Now the zipper worked.
Skylab, the habitat was getting very, very hot, and the astronauts had to go outside in their spacesuits, perform the extravehicular activity, and they literally saved Skylab.
Without EVA, Skylab would have not been habitable.
And the zipper is maybe 3 feet long.
Deploy
and it is a zipper.
Canopy over the
and a zipper is the only
EVA
thing between you and
eternity. Mission.
SpaceLink has actually saved some of our Another great example from the Gamma Ray Observatory mission. Skylab, the habitat was getting very, very went out hot, and literally the astronauts had to go outside in their spacesuits, perform the extravehicular activity. So and really important interaction when humans were suited and kind of saving very large missions.
My first job in the astronaut office after my initial training program was completed was to start working on EVA.
EVA saved that
mission. In fact, we
another great example from the Gamma Ray Observatory mission.
Design what their
Jerry Ross and Jay Abt went out and literally got an antenna deployed, and it saved, you know, a major observatory. So really important interaction when humans are suited and kind of saving very large missions.
My first job, I worked with those crews, helping them to initial training, figure out what tools we had available to start working, test out, and operate spacewalks in space out in the payload area of the orbiter. In fact, then we progressed from early crews.
The suit was not a brand new
design
suit
what their
anymore.
spacewalks would be like.
I had run it through
STS-5 was the first
all
planned spacewalk.
on the floor.
They had
It's the 1G test. I had run it through vacuum testing.
And then STS-6
I had run it through certification where the number of cycles you put on
I worked with those crews,
joints.
helping them to
I've been in the water
figure out what
so
tools we had available to them. From that, then we started to develop things like the man maneuvering unit, the little rocket backpack. Then we progressed from there. Demonstrated
the suit
on
was
several
not a
flights
brand
and
new
used
suit
in some
anymore.
cases.
In
I had
dramatic
run it
fashion,
through
doing the first fully
all
untethered spacewalk.
on the floor.
Bruce
It's the
McCandless
1G
zoomed
test. I
about
had run it
the
through
manned
vacuum
maneuvering
testing.
unit.
I had run it through
This equipment test would
certification
lead
where
to
the
the
number of
retrieval of
cycles you
stranded
put on
satellites
every
on subsequent
joint.
missions years later.
I've been in the water with it, so I was afraid.
Jealous of Bruce McCandless.
From that, then we started to
He had a
develop things
backpack
like the
and
man maneuvering unit,
went
the
out
rocket
a
backpack
ways
that
without
we
a tether.
demonstrated on several flights and used
Maneuvered
in some
around.
cases.
In
Over the
dramatic
following
fashion,
years,
extravehicular
fully
activity
untethered
became one of the
spacewalks.
space travelers' most exciting and
zoomed
necessary
about
tools
the
in the
observer
maneuvering
tool
unit.
belt.
This equipment test was July 17th
of stranded satellites
on subsequent
cosmonaut
missions.
Svetlana
Svetlana Savitskaya broke the
was
proverbial
really
glass
jealous
ceiling
of Bruce
and became the first
McCandless
woman to walk in
when he
space.
had a backpack.
Catherine
and
Sullivan followed
went
shortly
out,
after
a
on
ways
October
without
11th,
a tether.
becoming the first female American astronaut
Maneuvered
to
around.
perform a spacewalk. Over the following years, extravehicular activity became one of the space
first chance I
travelers'
had to
most
stick my
exciting
head
and
out the hatch
necessary
on our
tools
EVA
in
on
his
day
upper
7.
tool belt. As time progressed, so did the need for July 17th in 1984 as cosmonaut Svetlana Savitskaya broke the proverbial glass the essence of NASA's became the first woman to walk in space.
There was one time
Catherine
when I was on the
Sullivan followed
intermechanical
shortly
arm
after
that was
on
on the Hubble
October
mission.
11th,
And I was being
becoming the
moved
first
from one
female
place to
American
another,
astronaut
and you
to
really have
perform
no
a
sensation of
spacewalk.
movement when you're on that arm. It's just so smooth.
This is the
There's
first chance I
there's
had
no
to
drag
stick
of the
my
water
head out the
pulling
hatch
back,
on
and
our
so you don't
EVA
really
on
know
day
you're
7.
moving.
As time progressed,
I was
so
working
did
on the
need
tools.
for
I was putting
advanced
the sockets on
technology
for the
and
next
utilities.
whatever task I had to do next.
Complicated missions
and the
and
guys
space
stopped,
program
and
saving
they said you have to
maneuvers
look
are
at this. You just have to
the
stop and
essence
look.
of
And so I stopped and
extravehicular
looked, and
activity.
we were over the Gulf of
There was
Mexico.
one time when I was on the
intermechanical
arm
arm that was on the Hubble mission,
and we could see
and
Aurora
I was being
over
moved
Canada.
from one place to
And it was
another.
just an
And you really
amazing
have no
view.
sensation of movement when
We
you're
started
on that
to
arm.
develop
It's just so smooth.
little power tools.
There's no
We
drag of the
developed
water
more
pulling you back, and
wrenches
so you
and
don't
other
really
kinds
know
of
you're
tools that
moving.
we could use for other
And
types of
I was working on the
failures
tools.
that
I was
we
putting the sockets
identified in
on
the
for the
payload
next
bay door
whatever task I had to
mechanisms
do next.
to
And the
to
guys
remove
stopped.
debris
And they said, you
or
have to look
to
at this. You just have to
disconnect
stop and
things
look.
should
And so I
they-
stopped
should
and
they not
looked, and we were
function
over the Gulf of
properly.
Mexico.
From the Apollo
You could see
program's
entire
deep
North
space
America.
missions around and to
And
the
we could see
moon,
Aurora up
to
over
the
Canada.
U.S. Skylab,
And it was just an
Shuttle, and
amazing
International Space Station
we
programs.
started to develop
Spacewalkers have
little
suited
power
up.
tools.
On board the
We
spacecraft, you've
developed
got
more
the
wrenches
today
and other kinds
2
of tools that we
spacewalk crew
could
members
use
who
for
go out,
other types
work
of
cooperatively
failures
together. They
that we
become
identified
brother
in
and
the
sister,
payload
brother
bay
and
door
brother, sister and
mechanisms
sister.
to-
They learn how to work
remove
as a
debris
very
or to
coherent
disconnect
team.
things should
They
they-
actually
should they not
understand each
function
other's
properly.
moves.
From the
They know
Apollo
where they're
program's
supposed to be.
deep space
You've got
missions around and to
and
the
nowadays
moon, to the
robotic
US
operator
Skylab,
who's
Shuttle,
generally
and
moving
International
at
Space
least
Station
one of the crew
programs.
members around on a
Spacewalkers
robotic
have
arm.
suited
You've
up.
got the
On
IV crew
board
member, the
intravehicular
You've got
crew
member
member
who is
today,
for all intents and
two
purposes, the
spacewalk
choreographer
who go out,
has the
work
whole
cooperatively
mission
together.
They
Become
become committed
brother
to
and
memory,
sister,
knows
brother
when
and
somebody's
brother,
out of
sister and
position,
sister.
knows
They learn
when
how to
somebody's
work as a
about to
very,
get too far away where
coherent
they can be
team.
safely
They
tethered.
actually
Back
understand
on Earth
each other's
in the
moves.
mission
They
control
know
where
center.
they're supposed
You
to be.
have the primary
You've got,
person on
and
console that
nowadays
is the
robotic
EV,
operator who's
or the
generally moving
extravehicular
at least one of the crew members in the back room. They probably
You've
have
got the IV crew member, the
anywhere from
intervehicular
25 to
100
people
for all
who are
intents and
looking
purposes,
at
the
data
choreographer
from
has
each
the
of
whole
the spacewalking astronauts kind of committed to memory, knows when somebody's out of position, that's actually knows when somebody's and then somewhere in the world where they can be safely tethered back on Earth in the mission control center. Somebody that you have the primary person on console, whether it's in Denver, Colorado, or Connecticut, or the extra they're also looking on controller, and they have in their back room. They probably have getting all that back, anywhere from 25 to 100 people who are telling the flight control team, okay, we see this developing, spacewalking astronauts happening. They're looking at the data from the spacewalk that's actually going on. Probably thousands. And then somewhere in the world, the development, like at a place of the types of spacewalks, they built the spacesuit. and somebody that designed the procedure that's being done, whether it's in Denver, Colorado, or Connecticut, they're also looking on, and they have their own data that they're evaluating and getting all that back into mission control in Houston, telling the flight control team, okay, we see this developing, we see this happening. You need to let the crew know.
Laid out properly.
Probably thousands of people supporting the development of the types of spacewalks that we're going to do, and then hundreds actually involved in the spacewalk on that particular day.
It was part of our training to make sure that, even though you might be nervous, try not to show them that you're nervous. Everything had to be laid out perfectly, I mean, from the start,
don't panic
you had your checklist, it was all laid out properly, which pocket every pin went in.
Did you do something wrong?
Even down to where the pocket
well, the astronaut prayer, which is, please God, don't let me screw this up. That's the first thing.
I think the biggest fear that I had, and maybe many astronauts as well, is not that I was going to get hurt, it's that I was going to mess up. Because everybody's watching. You have such a limited time out there to get done what needs to be done. And you really, really don't want to make a mistake.
It was cold. So that was a little surprise, but we should have anticipated cold. But it turns out at that point we had only done hot space.
Well, the astronaut prayer, which is please God, don't let me screw this up. That's the first thing.
I think the biggest fear that I had, and maybe many astronauts as well, is not that I was going to get hurt; it's that I was going to mess up. Because everybody's watching. Thought they would be able to successfully complete 5 back-to-back
EVAs and do all that they were supposed to do. And they
so
not
that
only
was a little surprise,
in
but we
spite
should
of
have
obstacles that
anticipated
almost
cold. But it
at every
turns out
turn on
at that
almost
point
every
we had
single
only done
EVA,
hot space.
but they did them superbly and left
until
Hubble
STS-6 they had all
incredible
been
shape. The STS, I think they did a tremendous service to planetary, the final Hubble service astrophysics, and just the field of almost none of us thought they would be able to successfully work hard 5 and you plan back-to-back EVAs and do all that they were supposed to do.
When you're doing a spacewalk,
and they not only completed them in spite of obstacles,
you're in your own spaceship.
At every turn on almost every single EVA, but they did them superbly and left Hubble in incredible shape. And I think they did a tremendous service to planetary science, astrophysics, and just the field of spacewalks.
And I was holding on to a handrail,
showing people
looking up
that
at
if you
the
really
Earth
work
go
hard
by
at it and you plan it and you execute the way
and it was
you
a
plan,
truly remarkable
there's
moment.
nothing we can
but I did realize when you're doing a spacewalk, how far away we were from the Earth's atmosphere, in your own space homes. It's your space from our companions inside the space shuttle. From the vacuum outside. I wouldn't say that I felt a sense of loneliness, but a sense of awe. I had one moment on the Hubble Space Telescope mission. We're able to fix the Hubble. My spacewalking partner was on the other side of the telescope, and I was holding on to a handrail, looking up at the Earth go by behind the Hubble. And it was a truly remarkable moment.
Such as fixing the Hubble Space Telescope's blurry vision,
how far away we were from the Earth's atmosphere, from our homes. From our companions inside the space shuttle. And I wouldn't say that I felt a sense of loneliness, but a sense of awe that we're doing these kind of things, that we're able to fix the Hubble, to orbit the Earth.
Group of adventurers.
Say that on Hubble, it's a very fine motor skill, human being very close in a lot of hands
solved in extreme ways.
So it's almost like
such as fixing the Hubble Space Telescope's blurry vision,
being a longshoreman,
turning a possible billion-dollar piece of space junk into one of the most revered scientific instruments of human history. And that tradition continued with the Wall of EVA. Missions like Hubble tested the tremendously successful International Space Station, an elite breed among an already out-of-this-world group of adventurers.
NASA's first EVA, when Ed White went out on Gemini 4. We've come a long way since that first one. Building the International Space Station was very, very EVA intensive. And when we were planning for it, everybody talked about the wall of EVA. We're never going to be able to accomplish all this. And when you look back on what we accomplished, it was pretty darn amazing.
So on my first flight, we were right in the middle of the construction of the space station.
It's been 50 years since NASA's first EVA, when Ed White went out on Gemini 4. We've come a long way since that first one.
Every
building the International
EVA
Space Station, it was very, very EVA intensive. And when we were planning for it, everybody talked about the wall of EVA. We're never going to be able to accomplish all this. And when you look back on what we accomplished, it was pretty darn amazing.
So on my first flight, we were right in the middle of the construction of the space
station. More than 14 years old.
So of course, every shuttle flight that went up was
and continues to be
spacewalks
maintained and
just
upgraded
putting
through
pieces together.
spacewalks. in the most advanced spacesuits the world has
an
ever
important
seen.
and necessary
Spacewalks are not,
component of the assembly
they look
sequence.
like they're
So,
incredible
I think
fun,
we all
and
feel
they
that,
probably are for the
we
crew
have
member when you
a
really get
hand
down
in
to
laying
it.
the keystone
But we must
of
never
how we
forget
want
how
to
dangerous
describe
they
it.
are.
To see the ISS now,
Today,
and
the
spacewalks
International
that they
Space
do, got
Station
do
is being
repairs.
used as a
It's just
proving
incredible.
ground to conduct the research
Station
and test
is
the
more than
technologies
14 years
that will
old,
take humans built by space
low Earth
workers
orbit,
and continues to be
into the solar
maintained
system
and
than
upgraded
ever
through
before.
spacewalks to the
In the
area
most
around
advanced
the moon
spacesuits
to an
the
asteroid
world has ever seen.
on to
Spacewalks
Mars.
are not,
We
they
will
look like
pioneer
they're
space,
incredible fun,
not just to
and they
visit,
probably are for the
but
crew
to
member
stay.
when you really get down to it.
We're going to migrate
But we
out
must
over
never
the
forget
next
how dangerous they are.
5 to 10 years
Today,
into
the International
repositioning
Space Station
humanity
is being used
in
as a
lunar
proving
orbit.
ground
So we will
to conduct
spend
the
most of our
research and
time
test the technologies
orbiting
that
the
will take
moon
humans
and
beyond
doing more
low Earth
technology
orbit
development,
and deeper
but
into the solar
learning
system than
basically
ever
how
before.
we operate
To the
in
area
a
around
low
the moon,
gravity
to an
or
asteroid,
no gravity
and on to
environment,
Mars.
because that's the way it will
We will
be when we go to
pioneer
Mars.
space,
Mars's
not just to
gravity is
visit,
less than
but to
Earth's.
stay.
Operating
We're going to
there will be
migrate out
significantly
over the
different
next
5 to 10 years
in low Earth orbit.
when we
into
do the
repositioning
asteroid redirect
humanity
mission and we
in lunar
we
orbit.
reposition
So we will
an
spend
asteroid
most
into
of
a
our
stable
time
retrograde
orbiting
around the moon and doing more
than
technology
the dominant
development,
gravity
but
for that
learning
group
basically
of
how we operate
explorers,
in a,
if you
in a
will,
low
is going to
gravity
be the asteroid
or
itself.
no
And that's going to
gravity
be a
environment,
very,
because that's
very
the way it
low
will be
gravity
when we go to
field, if
Mars.
any at all.
Mars's gravity
So we've got
is
a
less
lot
than Earth's.
Operating
Development
there
of
will be
tactics,
significantly
techniques, and
different
procedures
than operating here in low Earth
Never
orbit.
know
when we
when you build a
do
piece
the
of
asteroid
hardware.
redirect mission and we
The guys back in the
reposition an
70s
asteroid into a
and gals
stable
that built,
retrograde
designed,
orbit
and tested
around the
the
moon,
original EMUs.
then the
which we're
dominant
still flying
gravity
today, by
for
the way.
that
The life support
group
systems
of
are still the original life
explorers,
support
if you
systems
will,
that we had,
is going to be the asteroid itself, and
30-some
that's
years
going to be
ago.
a very,
You
very,
never know where
very
that hardware's
low
gonna be.
gravity field,
To see
if any
that
at all.
suit, you know.
So we've got a lot of
To see it go on
development
over the
of tactics,
decades
techniques, and
into
procedures.
we never planned on hundreds
Never
of
know when you build a
spacewalks.
piece of hardware.
And the key
The guys
thing
back in
there
the
is
70s
in structural
and gals
integrity is
that
you
built and
identify
designed and
weakness
tested the
before
original
failure.
EMUs.
From here,
which we're still flying
NASA
today, by the way.
engineers,
The life support
technicians, and
systems are still the
astronauts
original
will
life
figure
support
out new
systems that we
ways to
had
overcome the next set of challenges.
30-some years ago. You never know where
We
that hardware
decided to orbit the Earth a
see
lot
that
instead of
suit,
going
you
deeper
know.
into space, and now I think
To
it's
see
time
it
for us
go
to take
on
that
over
step
the
beyond orbiting
decades
the Earth
and
moving
into
on.
we never
don't
planned
have the
on
same
hundreds
momentum we
of
had when we had an
spacewalks.
enemy that we were afraid of.
And the key
So
thing
we
there
are
is
not
in
in
structural
competition
integrity
as much
is
as
you
I think we need to
identify
be
weakness
in
before
cooperation
failure.
with other nations
From
in order
here,
to move
NASA
all
engineers,
of us forward
technicians, and
out into space.
astronauts
Mars is
figure out
really
new
extreme,
ways to
which is
overcome
the
the
great
next
part
set
about
of
it. It's
challenges.
challenging. So when we get to Mars,
We
you're going
decided
to
to orbit the Earth a
provided your
lot
life
instead of
support
going
and
deeper
pressure
into
with a
space.
spacesuit.
And now I think it's time for us to take
it'll
that
have
step
to be
beyond orbiting the Earth
really
and moving
something
on. We
new in
don't have
terms
the same
of to be
momentum
very
we had when
lightweight,
we had an
be
enemy
very
that we
mobile.
were afraid of.
We don't really have a locomotion
So
suit.
we are not
we
in
have a spacesuit
competition as
for
much as I think we
the
need to be
vacuum
in
of
cooperation
microgravity.
with
So
other
you're
nations
weightless,
in
which
order
is
to
great,
move all of
but that's a
us
very different
forward and out
environment.
into
Now when we
space.
get to Mars,
Mars
we have
is really
gravity-free
extreme,
gravity,
which is the
so
great
we're
part about it.
bipedal
So
challenging. So
we're
we're going to be walking, you're going to need to search for life, provided your looking life
for
support
fossils
and pressure
digging
with the
things up.
spacesuit.
So
You really are an explorer. So it is
it'll
akin
have to be
to Lewis and
really
Clark
something
expedition and new in terms of
and
moving
very
out
lightweight,
to the west.
be
It's
very
really
mobile.
The next
We
frontier.
don't really have a
For
locomotion
anyone
suit.
who goes
We have spacesuits
on another
for
EVA
the
stroll
vacuum
back
of
on the moon or
microgravity.
on Mars,
So
and
you're
we'll
weightless,
do
which
both
is great.
one
But that's a
day.
very
I
different
know
environment.
that'll
Now when we
happen.
get to Mars, we have
Take
gravity,
duct
3 gravity.
We are
So we're
currently further
bipedal
along
again.
than
So
ever before
we're going to be
in
walking,
human
bending,
history
or
on our
going there
journey
to
to
search for
Mars.
life, looking for fossils and digging things up. So you really really are an explorer. So it is akin to Lewis and Clark expedition, and exploring
American engineers and
moving out
scientists
to
around the
west.
country
It's
are
really
working
the
hard
next
to develop
frontier.
the technologies,
anyone who goes
including new spacesuits,
on another
that
EVA
astronauts will
stroll
use to one day
back
live
on the
and work
moon or
on
on
the
Mars,
red
and
planet.
we'll do both one day.
Next stop,
I know that'll happen.
Mars.
Take duct tape.
We are currently further along than ever before in human history on our journey to Mars. American engineers and scientists around the country are working hard to develop the technologies, including new spacesuits, that astronauts will use to one day live and work on the red planet. Next stop, Mars.
Humanity has always been interested in exploration. If we really want to go to the moon, we have got to figure out a way to keep our propellants cold long enough. My name is Monica Guzik, and I have the coolest job at NASA because I work with cryogenics. Cryogenics is the study of things at very low temperatures. We've got electrical connectors we can plug into. So we want to store things like oxygen or hydrogen, but if you store them as a gas, the only way to get a whole bunch of molecules in there is to raise the pressure really high. So instead, if we make them really, really cold, always they turn into a liquid, so they're way more efficient. We really want to go to the moon. So this is going to be a liquid oxygen test. I always knew I wanted to be an engineer since I was a little girl. My name is Monica Music, and I had the coolest job at NASA. We were going to put insulation over this. Cryogenics is the study of things at very low temperatures we can plug into. So Cleveland is the rock and roll capital of the world. I really enjoy rock and roll music, so I try to go to get a whole bunch of molecules. We improve cryogenic technology to pressure really high. Space applications, if we make them really, really cold, they turn into a liquid. Now we're rolling into the Artemis generation, and we're still doing that. So this is going to be a liquid oxygen test. I always knew I wanted to be an engineer since I was a little girl. My dad was an engineer, and I just thought engineering was so cool. We were going to put insulation over this. Ended up getting a summer internship here at NASA Glenn Research Center in Cleveland, and just really sort of fell in love with NASA. Cleveland is the rock and roll capital of the world. I really enjoy rock and roll music, so I try to go to a lot of concerts. When we improve cryogenic technologies for space applications, it always has a trickle-down effect to Earth. Now we're rolling into the Artemis generation, and we're still doing that.
And void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light. People, and there was light on earth. The crew God saw the light. And it was good. We would like to send you. God divided the light from the darkness. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the darkness he called light. And the earth was without form, and void was the first day. And darkness was upon the face of the deep.
The void, the darkness.
And the Spirit of God
then light,
the face of the waters.
then life.
And God said,
and from life came man, joining the caravan for the long, slow journey through a world of discovery, invention, exploration. His marks, his milestones, stretch out through the centuries. His footsteps echo down through the corridors. In the beginning, the void, the darkness. July then 1969, then life. Florida. The and from life, the caravan quickened. Joining the caravan as man reached outside journey through a world of discovery, invention, exploration. His marks, his milestones, stretch out through the centuries. His footsteps echo down through the corridors of time. Time. July 1969 in Florida. The footsteps, the caravan quickened. The corridors shortened as man reached outside his world into another void. They go about their lives, taking only a sideways glance at the reminders of that milestone. Reminders, images that vaguely jog our memory. Today in Florida, they go about their lives, taking only a sideways glance at the reminders of that milestone. Time, it plays tricks on us, images that vaguely jog the sharp edges of reality. But we turn the trick and summon up our own reality, images, sounds, to help us remember.
32 minutes past the hour. Start of launch window on Mercury Saturday and on the moon. Of course, the countdown still proceeds. The lunar module, which has
time, it plays tricks on us. It smudges and blurs the sharp edges of reality. But we turn the trick and summon up our own reality. 1 million of them to this place, drawn by the magnet of history in the making.
Astronauts, the prime crew, were awakened at 4:15 a.m. Eastern Daylight and proceeded to have a physical examination in which they were declared flight ready. They sat down for the normal astronaut fare on launch day. As far as breakfast is concerned, orange juice, steak, scrambled eggs, toast, and coffee. The 2 batteries in the ascent stage. The target for the Apollo 11 astronauts.
They came 1 million of them to this place, drawn by the magnet of history in the making.
The prime crew were awakened at 4:15 a.m. Eastern Daylight and proceeded to have a physical examination in which they were declared flight ready. They sat down for the normal astronaut fare on launch day. As far as breakfast is concerned, 8 miles away from the crew quarters, steak, scrambled eggs, toast, and coffee.